Kevin was celebrating at a bar, bragging about how he destroyed his ex-wife in the divorce, when a quiet old man in the corner stood up and said those 4 words that changed everything. "I am her father." Let me tell you this absolutely insane story that happened in Boston 2 years ago. This is about a guy named Kevin Brooks and his ex-wife Sarah. Kevin and Sarah got married when they were both 25. For the first 5 years, everything seemed okay. But Kevin had a secret problem. He was a narcissist who loved feeling superior to everyone around him. Sarah came from a modest background. Her mom was a school teacher, and her dad seemed like a regular blue-collar worker. Sarah rarely talked about her father, because he was always traveling for work. Kevin loved that Sarah's family seemed ordinary. It made him feel like the successful one in the relationship. Kevin worked in finance and made decent money, around $200,000 a year. He constantly reminded Sarah that he was the breadwinner. He made her feel like she should be grateful he married her. Over time, Kevin became emotionally abusive. He controlled all the money and made Sarah ask permission for everything. He criticized her constantly and destroyed her confidence. Sarah's friends told her to leave, but she was afraid. Kevin had threatened that if she ever divorced him, he would take everything. He said he had the best lawyers, and she would end up with nothing. Finally, after 8 years of marriage, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She filed for divorce. Kevin was furious that she had the nerve to leave him. He hired an aggressive divorce attorney who had a reputation for destroying opposing parties. His lawyer's name was Richard Stone, and he was known as a shark. Sarah hired a local attorney, Janet Miller, who seemed nice, but inexperienced. Kevin laughed when he found out who Sarah's lawyer was. He told his friends this was going to be the easiest win of his life. During the divorce proceedings, Kevin was ruthless. His lawyer dug up every small mistake Sarah had ever made. They twisted everything to make her look bad. Kevin lied and said Sarah never contributed to the household. He claimed she was lazy and irresponsible with money. He fought her on every single asset, even things that were clearly hers. Sarah's lawyer Janet seemed completely overwhelmed. She barely put up a fight in court. Kevin thought he was winning easily. The judge seemed to side with Kevin on almost everything. Sarah was given very little in the preliminary rulings. Kevin started celebrating before the divorce was even final. He told everyone he knew that he had crushed Sarah. He posted on social media about his victory. He went to bars and bragged to strangers about how he outsmarted his ex-wife. One night, Kevin was at an upscale bar in downtown Boston. He was drunk and loud, telling the whole story to anyone who would listen. He said Sarah was stupid for thinking she could win against him. He laughed about how her cheap lawyer didn't stand a chance. He said Sarah would be struggling to pay rent while he lived in their nice house. There was an older man sitting quietly in the corner of the bar. He was probably in his 60s, wearing simple clothes. He had been sitting there reading a book and sipping whiskey. Kevin noticed the man, but didn't think anything of it. The old man suddenly stood up and walked over to Kevin's table. "Excuse me," the man said calmly. "I couldn't help but overhear your story." Kevin smiled, thinking this guy wanted to congratulate him. "Yeah man, I totally won," Kevin said proudly. "My ex-wife didn't know what hit her." The old man nodded slowly. Then he said something that made Kevin's blood run cold. "I'm her father." Kevin's smile disappeared instantly. He suddenly remembered that Sarah's father was someone she never talked about much. Someone who was always away on business. The old man introduced himself as Thomas Chen. Kevin had heard that name before, but couldn't place it. Thomas pulled out his phone and made a call right there at the table. He spoke quietly to someone for about 30 seconds. Then he hung up and looked at Kevin. "Let me tell you who I actually am," Thomas said. "I'm the CEO and majority shareholder of Chen Industries." Kevin's face went white. Chen Industries was a massive international corporation. They owned factories, real estate, and had operations in 40 countries. The company was worth over $20 billion. Thomas explained that he had intentionally kept a low profile his whole life. He didn't want his daughter growing up with everyone knowing she was an heiress. He wanted Sarah to have a normal childhood and find someone who loved her for her, not her family's money. So he let people think he was just a regular worker. Sarah knew about the money, but respected her father's wishes to keep it private. She never told Kevin because she wanted him to love her for who she was. Clearly that didn't work out, Thomas said coldly. Kevin tried to stammer an apology, but Thomas wasn't done. He said Sarah's lawyer Janet wasn't overwhelmed or inexperienced. Janet was actually one of the top family law attorneys in the country. She had been deliberately holding back and gathering evidence. They had recordings of Kevin's threats and abuse. They had financial records showing Kevin had been hiding assets. They had witnesses ready to testify about Kevin's behavior. The preliminary rulings didn't matter because the final hearing was next week. And that's when Janet would present everything. Thomas leaned in close to Kevin. "You bragged about beating my daughter," he said quietly, "but you haven't won anything yet. And now that you've shown your true colors publicly, it's going to be much worse for you." Over the next week, Kevin's world fell apart. His own lawyer Richard called him in a panic. Sarah's legal team had filed mountains of new evidence. They had proof Kevin had been hiding money in offshore accounts. They had recordings of him threatening Sarah. They had witnesses who saw his abusive behavior. Richard told Kevin they were going to lose badly. At the final divorce hearing, everything changed. Janet presented all the evidence methodically and professionally. Kevin's lawyer had no defense. The judge was furious when he saw the proof of Kevin's hidden assets and abuse. The final ruling was devastating for Kevin. Sarah got the house, most of the savings, and alimony. Kevin also had to pay all of Sarah's legal fees, which were substantial. The judge ordered Kevin to attend therapy for his abusive behavior. Kevin's reputation in his industry was destroyed when word got out. Several of his clients dropped him their hearing about the case. His firm quietly pushed him out 6 months later. Meanwhile, Sarah finally felt free. Her father had wanted to help her financially during the marriage, but Sarah had insisted on standing on her own. Now Thomas set up a trust fund for her that would provide financial security forever. Sarah went back to school and got her master's degree. She started her own successful consulting business. She's happy, healthy, and thriving. Kevin, on the other hand, had to sell his car to pay his debts. He moved into a small apartment. His social media posts about winning the divorce are still up. People comment on them regularly to remind him how wrong he was. The video of Thomas confronting Kevin at the bar was recorded by someone and went viral. Kevin became a cautionary tale across the internet. Thomas gave one interview about the situation. He said, "The biggest mistake arrogant people make is assuming quiet people have no power." He said he had stayed quiet his whole life by choice, not because he had to. And when someone hurt his daughter, he simply chose to stop being quiet. This story teaches us several important lessons. Never assume you know everything about someone based on appearances. Sarah's family seemed ordinary, but they were actually incredibly powerful. Never brag about victory before it's actually final. Kevin celebrated too early, and it backfired spectacularly. And most importantly, never underestimate the quiet ones. The person sitting silently in the corner might be the one with all the power. Kevin learned all these lessons the hardest way possible. And Sarah finally got the justice she deserved.